Welcome to the Pathways to Profitability podcast, personal tales of business success, where we hear local business owners' personal stories of their trials and tribulations that got them to where they are today. Here's your host, Cheryl Mucha, CEO of CFO Your Way.
Hello and welcome to Pathways to Profitability podcast. I am Cheryl Mucha, CEO of CFO Your Way, and I am excited to have Jeff Pugel with us today from Ignition, marketing strategist. Jeff, welcome.
Good morning. It's great to be here, Cheryl.
So I like to just give the audience a little bit of a touch of what Jeff is all about, and it could be personal, business. Just give us a little feel for who you are.
Sure thing. So what I do is I work with digital agency owners and helping them create a blueprint to growing their agency without having to pitch and chase clients.
So it's business development strategy. I love it. So let's just start with a little bit of your background and what that impetus was to make you take that leap of faith to become an entrepreneur.
Okay. Well, it started back in the mid-90s in New York City when I got my first internship at a small ad agency. And as they say, that was the beginning of the end in a sense. So, fast forward after several years working on the biggest of the big agencies on Madison Avenue, working at a couple of high-flying agencies in Denver and being involved doing media sales on the other side of the proverbial desk, and then being involved with a couple different digital marketing startups. The one area I kept finding myself coming back to and being drawn back to, it was the business development side of the equation. Because one thing I kind of picked up early on in my career, I was a media planner, media buyer by training and decision, is every plan I was kind of putting together on behalf of a client, I needed to end up selling it in along the way. And part of it was I always like to kind of be the cutting edge ideas along the way. And that, required a whole new level of salesmanship along the way. And then obviously that got kind of noticed. And next thing you know, I'm on new business pitch teams and things like that because, able to, sell new ideas, bring new revenue in. And, through the journeys, you kind of saw the good, the bad, the ugly along the way of business development, all the way.
So if I could just interrupt you a second. So you started in marketing, and it flips quickly to the sales side of marketing.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was always with marketing, but it kind of bounced back and forth from the two different sides of the tables. Because the one thing I realized was nothing happened until something got sold. Right. Along the way.
Right. So what was the aha moment that said, I don't want to be an employee anymore. I want to take this huge leap and be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, it's actually, let me give the precursor before the big aha moment, because I need to kind of get it. So this was 2007. My wife and I just moved from New York City to Denver to join a big agency out there. Within about 8 months of coming there, I was laid off with about 80% of the rest of the agency because they had lost their biggest client and had no new business coming back in the door to replace them. And the little coda there was they ended up shutting the doors permanently a few months afterwards. So that was kind of the first seed of like, whoa, this is what happens when you don't have a right pipeline in place. So fast forward, we came back here to Cleveland, which is my hometown, a few years back in 2016, joined a digital marketing startup, and good growth trajectory until like a lot of startups ended up kind of hitting a plateau. Right. And couldn't get stuck on, couldn't get out of that plateau. And one night, literally kind of had a little bit of a midlife crisis, middle of the morning, woke up realizing, life is too short. I was trying to, inside the company, trying to advance some new marketing ideas to get them kind of unstuck from that plateau. It wasn't happening. And I said, you know what? Life is too short. And that was kind of when the idea for Ignition really was planted. And then a few months later, ventured off, handed in my resignation. And long story short, is everything else, what the ideas I had for my company at the time ended up becoming the foundation and the path and the framework for what I'm doing now with Ignition and my agency clients and helping them with growth strategies.
Oh, wow. So it was very situational that, precursor, getting laid off and not wanting to be at some organization's whim of hiring, firing, right? Yeah. And having these ideas that you weren't empowered to execute for the company you were working for.
That's right.
So in that time frame, pre-Ignition, was there a mentor or someone that that empowered you to have these thoughts and these ideas and really ignited that fire? How's that?
Yeah. On one side, it goes back, it was my father. He owned his own business. He was an entrepreneur at heart. So growing up, always tagged along, kind of had a front row seat to that. But then couple that during my agency days, being a media planner, I was always the one being sold to by the different sales reps, the TV reps, the newspaper reps, the magazine reps. So I was on the other side of that equation, and I was seeing everything that they were doing. So I was picking up all these little nuggets along the way. And that is finally, it was in 2019 when I was at my last company before I went off on my own, where everything kind of congealed together.
Yeah, and I always say it's that moment in time. Like, we needed all that experience beforehand in order to turn the page and become the entrepreneur. Like, we couldn't have done it without going through. And it's the path. It's the journey that we take in order to be the person that we need to be to take that leap of faith.
100%.
So give us a little bit about, like, how do you define success? So it could be personal success for your clients, family success.
Success, so I like to look at it is, are we better today than we were yesterday?
I love it.
That's it, because everyone is on their own different journey out there. And one thing I always tell my clients is, never compare yourself to everyone else you're seeing out there, because you're not seeing the completeness of that person's journey. You don't know that journey has just started today, yesterday, or 18 years ago. Most of the time we don't see the whole backstory. So don't compare yourself to others, because you don't know where they are at. So with that, it's always
where they're coming from.
Right. So I say, run your own race. And with that, your backstory, and then success from that is merely, okay, are we better today than we were yesterday? Okay, we set goals at the beginning of this quarter. It's the end of the quarter. How are we done against those goals?
Right.
That's, it's kind of reframing what success is in that way.
I love it. And I love, I'm all about, I'm the numbers gal. I'm all about the numbers. So having those measurables to be able to say, we're on track, we're not on track. What do we need to do to get on track? Or like you referred to before, the plateau, like get past this plateau. And let's really figure it out.
Well, I'll say something. Here's something interesting. You mentioned numbers, though. I've often found when coaching other successful entrepreneurs and agency owners is often other things beyond just numbers holding them back from success. There's a lot, as I usually peel the onion, there's a lot of lifestyle issues underneath everything that's holding them back.
Right.
So a lot of times it's addressing those, conquering those, getting those, out of the way.
Right.
That enables that number success. So oftentimes I'll consider some of those life successes as wins, because you got a huge roadblock out of your way that will then be able to allow you to get that financial success.
Yeah, there's, I agree. It's not just, we can't look at it in a silo. There's so many things that affect our lives, whether business or personal, and they all play into where we go, like where we were yesterday and where we're going tomorrow.
Yep.
So you're also an author.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about your book and what kind of got you motivated, or what the idea was for the book.
Yeah. So the idea of my book is, one thing I've noticed in all my time was everyone thought there was one way to growing, a business, and it was often, very, I would say, tactically driven. Anything out there, when you talk to people, you think, oh, the only way to grow is by doing this tactic, this tactic, this tactic, that tactic. But peeling the onion back, what they're really after are profits at the end of the day. And it was realizing I like to reverse engineer things to try to find something. Let's reverse engineer to figure out what's really happening. And the way I looked at it is, okay, most companies, when they're saying I need more customers, when you ask most clients that, they say I need more customers. Well, why do you need more customers? Well, we need more revenue. Well, why do we need more revenue? Well, actually, I don't have enough money at the end of the day to do payroll, do this, do that. Oh, so what you're really saying is we need more profits. And the one thing I learned from my agency journey, which is the kind of foundation of what I'm doing today, is there's lots of ways to get profits into a business that don't necessarily tie into lead gen that most companies aren't aware of. So the book I put together is kind of focuses on those, as I call them, profit acceleration strategies that are, ways you can drive profits immediately in your company without necessarily having to do a big fancy marketing campaign.
Right. And what's the name of the book?
It is just called 45-Minute Business Breakthrough Secrets.
Okay. So, and where can our audience find it? Is it on Amazon?
No, you can just get it right from our website at ignition.llc, right there on the homepage, and just drop in your email and be sent right over to you.
So what was the spark that made you say, I need to put these ideas into a book?
It was really going around, just talking with other business owners, others, and just realizing it. I think, there's a perception of there's one way of doing things. Right. But as I mentioned earlier, I've always kind of liked to be on the bleeding edge, kind of doing things a little bit differently. It's like, no, there's a different way to do this. It's proverbial. There's more than one way to skin the cat here.
Right.
And as I talk to people, like, I never thought about it like that. But as he explained it to me, that makes complete sense.
Right. Yeah, and it brings in our own unique personalities and life workings and traits and whatnot. And you can't just follow someone else's methodology because it doesn't necessarily work for you or I.
No, well, and I think you'd appreciate this being a CFO, Cheryl, is okay. It's like you're sitting down there with a client, you're looking at their numbers at the end of the quarter, whatever. Okay, and it's not what they want to be. So
right,
okay, we need more money. How do we? But the issue, we need it fast.
Right,
that's often the case. We needed it yesterday.
Exactly.
Well, here's the
Stop
issue.
the bleeding, right?
Yes, and here's the issue. This is what I saw through all my days working in the marketing world. Any type of a marketing campaign is a 6, 9, 12-month solution. It's like planting a plant in the spring.
Right.
You plant those seeds in the spring and you don't harvest that fruit until probably late summer, early fall.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a process.
It's a process. And that's where most people are frustrated. It's like, no, I need the money now. And that's why I say that's where these strategies come in. It's like, well, these are strategies you can use now that you're just not even thinking about.
Or if you need the money now, you should have thought of this a year ago, right?
Right. But now this is the beauty of it. Okay, now we've got some very, I want to say, short, quick hit ideas that we can apply for today.
Right.
But now we can also start to apply the longer term strategy so we avoid this situation, because that's usually one thing I find is it's like the cupboard is bare.
Right.
As a result. So okay, we'll in theory, we'll start to restock the proverbial cupboard at the same time.
Fascinating. And I love, a couple times you referred to peeling back the onion. Mm-hmm. And in that, there's typically lots of tears and frustration, right? So I love that, like that image that it created in my head of, it's hard. You gotta peel those layers back, and there's tears and there's hard times in those layers, right?
There is, but there's a lot of people going, it's the realization, like, oh my gosh, it's right there.
Right.
It's like they just needed someone to shine the light on the right area so they were looking at.
Right. And that's where you and I come in with this expertise. Like, to us, it's, we know it like the back of our hands, and it's I don't want to say common sense, but it's tried and true.
Yes.
But if this isn't your area of expertise, you don't know where to start.
Exactly. It's just like, I'm not a doctor. I would not operate on myself.
Don't come to you for heart surgery.
No, even though I can probably find I can find the video on YouTube and study it, I'm still not going to operate on myself.
Right.
That's not my zone of expertise.
Right.
And that's why I tell my clients, it's like, business development growth strategies are not necessarily your zone of expertise, and that's okay.
Right.
That's why that's like people like yourself and myself, all others. We're all here to help each other.
Right.
We're focusing on our zones of expertise.
Right. And all those years of experience and having these ideas and trying them and seeing what works, what doesn't. It takes time and knowledge and research and tried and true. I love it.
Yep.
So Jeff, just tell the audience again where they can find you, please.
Yep. You can find me on my website at ignition.llc. I also hang out a lot on LinkedIn. Just search up for Jeff Pugel. I'm the only one out there that I've seen at the moment. So you could either find ignition.llc or just look me up at Jeff Pugel on LinkedIn.
Okay, great. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story. There's always little tidbits here and there that, turn on that light bulb for our listeners. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, it's great to be here today, Cheryl.
I appreciate it. So for our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. You can find all of our episodes at pathwaystoprofitability.com. Just listen in and find the story that resonates with you. Have a great day.
That's it for today's episode of Pathways to Profitability. Remember to ask yourself, where can I pay my success forward today?